Audrey Montoya is a US-based needle felting artist whose creations have to be seen to be believed. They are kitsch, they are whimsical, they are poignant, and they are amazing. In this first part of our Needle Exchange, Audrey and I talk about how she came to create needle felting creations, the influence of childhood icons and pop culture, and how her watercolour background set her on the path to making these creatures that have a slightly whimsical and slightly melancholic quality to them. Audrey's creations are almost like documentaries of her experiences. They're her expressions, they're almost a form of catharsis. And it's just wonderful to talk to someone who's taking needle felting in a new and interesting direction, but at the same time is clearly just producing the art that she was made to create. I think if you haven't seen Audrey's work already, you've got to go and find her on Instagram. It's really amazing. I just love needle felting when it's put into left field uses, and Audrey pushes all the right buttons as far as I'm concerned. So this is a great conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy getting to know her. And obviously we'll be back next week for the second part of the conversation. Thanks as always for listening to the show. I hope you're enjoying it. If you do know anybody who's interested in needle felting, please do point them in the direction of this episode. I think it's super rewarding. And if you haven't tried stabbing a bit of wool with a needle yourself yet, give it a go. I tell you, it's so therapeutic. Anyway, I'll be back next week with another part of the conversation with Audrey. So until then, enjoy the show. So I wanted to start by asking you, I can't decide whether C3PO is a genuine kitsch icon or not. And he lives on my Christmas tree. We get him out at Christmas and he hangs out on our Christmas tree. And he, I think, is the first thing on your Instagram feed. So I was like, C3PO is obviously a thing for you. I just wanted your take, really.
I think C3PO is a kitsch icon. What's funny about that picture that you're talking about on my Instagram is that that's like the first toy I ever collected, and I started collecting toys. So uh, that's funny. I forgot that was on there.
He's just so good. And I think that the amazing thing, I don't know, I was going through and I was looking through your Instagram and I was like traveling back in time. And after a while, I just started writing like phrases because at first I was like writing sentences. And by the end of my notes, I'm just like, Garbage Pail Kids, Star Wars, Duplo,
Yeah.
Garfield. You know, it's just this like sensory assault.
That's funny that you said Garbage Pail Kids because my sister just gave me a bunch of cards, like Garbage Pail cards for my birthday last month. So that's pretty
I
cool.
feel like they must, because actually I didn't see them
Gross.
come up. I would have thought there would have been more reference of that kind of stuff because it feels like they're in the same universe as you.
Very much, very much. They're just so gross, but not gross. They're great. I love them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, were they an influence on you? Were they a thing when you were a kid, or are you a bit too young for that?
I was not aware of Garbage Pail Kids when I was little, so that was something that I came across as an adult.
Mm.
But when I found them, I was like, "That's so cool!" Because I had Cabbage Patch Kids when
Hmm.
I was a kid, so it was like the perfect like segue into like gross, cute stuff.
They really were. I'm trying to sort of see. I just feel like there's this sense of like looking at your early work and stuff that just things stood out to you a lot. Like even like I don't know. I don't really know where to begin. This is quite an abstract conversation we're going to have, but I feel like it's an Audrey Montoya kind of
Okay.
conversation because it will just be like we'll get talking about the needle felting somewhere down the line, but it's kind of like there's just you've got watercolors of I don't know like toys from Toy Story up against Star Wars figures being threatened by a bowl of jelly or something. It's kind of like, oh, where does all that come from? What's the story?
Well, I started collecting toys mostly because I needed still life subject matter. And I was like, I can control these little toys and they look like people. So I don't actually have to work with people or go find somebody to like model for me. So I was like, I'm just going to use toys. And so I just started collecting them and like putting them in weird situations. Um, And I really was focused in the beginning of being really good at watercolor. Like I
Mm.
just wanted to be the best watercolorist there was. Uh, so I really went into it and was like, I'm gonna do all the detail. I'm gonna have all the crazy backgrounds. I'm gonna do all the things and learn all the watercolor stuff. Um, and they were just sort of my muse, I
Yeah.
guess, or my just something that I could really control because very controlling when it comes to my art.
I mean, fair play, to be honest, because if you want to get good at watercolors, I would imagine C3PO and other shiny characters like that are a real, like, if you can get those guys down, you can do kind of anything.
Exactly. And like doing shiny things or like making things look shiny or plastic was really like my jam for a really long time. I absolutely loved it. It was like my favorite part of my paintings was making them look shiny and realistic.
Yeah, I mean, even in the early days, I'm just looking at them now, you've got like shiny Garfields and shiny Duplo toys and stuff, but it's also, and even like your magnetic letters that go on the fridge.
Yes.
But what's interesting to me is it's like, it's the choices. It's not just like that they're shiny, but I don't know, they're like all iconic or something.
Hmm. So they're all very like most of it is stuff that I played with when I was little. I have a big brother and a big sister who were kids in the 80s, so I had a lot of like He-Man and Care Bear stuff. Um, and I just loved it. So it just reminded me of being a kid, but I was a grown up and I got to play with these toys as a grown up. So it was pretty fun. And each of the characters sort of have their own personality outside of a painting. So it's interesting when you put different characters together. Like if you put a Care Bear next to like I think I have one with that's a Care Bear next to a what's that book? Where's
Right,
Waldo?
right,
I
right.
put
Yeah.
a Care Bear in a Where's Waldo thing, and that is just like to me, it was really interesting to play between the ideas of Where's Waldo, and then there's this Care Bear on there. Like, what does that mean together? Like, I don't think I really had like a set like this is what this means, but I just wanted the viewer to like, how did these things come together? How are they functioning together?
It's the kind of
If that makes
licensing
sense.
mashup that no lawyers would touch in the country. Do you know what I mean? But you do see, like, sometimes you
Yeah.
see, like, Marvel and DC. You do get overlaps between these kind of brands. So I guess you're just playing with those things, aren't you? Butting them up against one another.
Yes. Yeah, it really used to bug my husband because he was one of those kids that when he played, he kept like all his like Ninja Turtles together, and there was only if he was playing, it was only Ninja Turtles,
Right.
and I was always like, here's a troll, and here's my Barbie, and they're gonna go on an adventure together.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
I mean, is that so? I mean, it's obviously like, I just feel like there's this kitsch thing. There's a 1980s, 1990s nostalgia to all of your work, and I know we are going to get on to the needle related stuff in the first place. But I just think there's just this real strong theme throughout where you've just gone, wow, I'm going to punch wows together and see what happens as much as I can.
Yeah, like all that stuff is just sort of like in my brain all the time. Like I grew up watching TV. Like I remember my best Christmas one year was my parents got me a VCR and a TV and a bunch of movies to watch. And that was I just love American pop culture or just pop culture in general. And it's just like in my brain, like smushing around in there. And then the paintings really sort of like cemented that like visuals or the aesthetic of those toys and like the cartoons and the movies and all that stuff in my brain that it sort of just now comes out in the needle felted sculptures. But I don't think I would be doing the needle felted sculptures I'm doing now if I hadn't done all that watercolor stuff before.
Can you describe them to everybody?
They are, let me look at them. Hold on a
They are hard to describe.
second. They're very weird. I think of them as weird sculptures. Like if somebody asks me what I do and they've never seen it, I just tell them I make weird needle felted sculptures. They're very cartoony, I would say. I like parts of them to be sort of realistic, like mouths or eyes. And then some of them, parts of it are very cartoony. Sometimes like I'll do it really something really realistically in it. Like I made these pizzas that look really realistic. but then the eyes are really cartoony. And they're kinda gross, and they're all kinda tired and sad. Uh, Sad, weird needle felted sculptures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you said that you use them. It's almost like there's a catharsis to them. I feel like you take your emotions and you build the sculptures out of those.
Yes. So whatever I like, say I had a bad day or a parenting fail or something, I might go and sit in my needle felting chair and, like, needle felt about it, like, make a little sad slice of cake or something, like, "Oh, man, I shouldn't have yelled at my kid, but I did." So
I'm glad that so I've got two kids and I just yelled at them and then in a blink of an eye sort of forget that I do it because otherwise I just dwell on that. I remember the first time, and my 7-year-old reminds me of this. Like once when she was a baby, I chucked my wife her mobile phone and it bounced on the sofa and bounced off of Flora's head and made her cry. And I felt really bad about that for like a day. And now Flora just does that every now and again. She goes, Dad, do you remember? Because she don't remember it, but she knows that it made me cry. She'd be like, do you remember that time that you threw a mobile phone at my head? I was like, that's not what happened. Don't make up the stories. But I like it. Do you feel better once you've made the piece? Do you feel like you've put the emotions away in that piece?
I do. It really helps me sort of think about it and work through it. And if I do yell at my kid, I'll go apologize. But it helps me like move through it, and then to see something that sort of feels as like disappointed in myself as I am, like it's kind of nice to like make this thing, and then it's looking at me and it's just like, no, you shouldn't have done that.
There's a funny contrast, I think, between like the sort of, if you like, the cocky weirdness of your work and then you, because you're quite humble, I think. You don't big yourself up that much.
Yeah, I mean, well, really, this whole needle felting thing started just like it was just like an explosion. Like I really didn't think it was gonna be anything. And so now that it is a thing, it's really weird. Because I've really only been needle felting seriously for like the last 2 years or so. So it's like it's strange because I feel like I don't know everything
Mm.
about needle felting. But I know a lot about watercolor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But um like I know a lot about watercolors. So I know that there's like probably a lot of stuff I don't know about needle felting just because I feel like I just started doing it. So to me, I'm just like, oh, thank you everybody for liking my needle felting stuff, but I don't know what I'm doing.
The curious thing with needle felting, I always think, is it's one thing, it's like an artistic mode, but it's also kind of engineering. And that's quite bedded in, isn't it? The ability to make structure.
Yeah, you really have to think about it in, 3 dimensions, which for me is easy. Like I don't know why I spent so much time doing paintings because doing things in 2D is really hard. Like making that 2D thing look 3D is really difficult, but to make a 3D object for me is a lot easier, which I should have known because every time I did a sculpture when I was a kid or in college or whatever, like it was easy and I was like, "Oh, this is super easy." But then I was always like, "No, I'm gonna do painting because that's the thing. Like painting's where all the prestige is at." And I did sculpture the whole time.
But that's funny, isn't it? Because you spent so long making 3D out of 2D that when it came to making 3D, you're just pretty fearless in that respect.
Yeah, it's really easy to get it to be 3 dimensions, but I would say that my work, a lot of it is pretty flat anyways because I make it to hang on a wall, so that it's usually not super deep. But I really like even with these to put like little shine spots on them and stuff and to make them look realistic in 3D.
I think one of the secrets seems to be with your work, it's a lot about the eyeballs.
It's my favorite part.
Do they come first? Do you get the eyeballs, or do you kind of you make a thing and you're right, I'm ready for the eyeball now?
So I make the thing, like I sort of save that. Like my favorite parts are the eyes and the mouths. I save those for last. Um, so I'll like with the like a donut or something, I'll just make the donut and I'll do all the stuff for it so that it looks like a donut. And then I'll start adding weird faces or eyes or mouth or nose or something on it, just like randomly. But yeah, it's always my
Hmm.
favorite part. Like I always save my favorite part for last.
When does the donut, is there a turning point when it stops being just a donut and you're like, oh no, this is my donut now. This is the donut of arrogance.
When it has its eyes, usually is when I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, donut. I brought you to life."
So, just always apologize to them.
Yeah,
Just like
they're always so sad or so tired or exhausted or exasperated.
well, because that was the thing, didn't it start with exhausted clouds? Is that kind of like where it began?
Yeah, so, I actually just bought this cloud from Amazon. It was like this fluffy cloud, and I saw it on Amazon. It was like, I think this was like 6 years ago or something, and I bought this cloud, and I put it up in my house just because I thought it was like, I love seeing the elements as, like, physical things, like plastic fire or, like, plastic water, and so when I saw this cloud that was made out of this fluffy stuff, I was like, "I have to have it." So I put it in my house, and then I was looking at it for a long time, and I was like, "You know what it needs is eyeballs." So I had some needle felting stuff from, a class I took in college. So I was like, "I'm gonna make some eyeballs for this." And so I did, and I stuck it up there, and I could not stop laughing. And I was like, "This is the silliest thing I've ever made, and I love it so much." So then I was like, "I wonder if I can needle felt a whole cloud," because the cloud I had made wasn't needle felted, it's just eyes. So then I started, like, sort of experimenting with, polyfill or polyester fiber to see if I could get that to needle felt together because I didn't know if it would or not because it's real slippery. But I did, and so I started making these needle felted clouds. But I like maybe like over the last from like 6 years until like 4 years ago, I made like 4 or 5 needle felted
Hmm.
clouds. It's mostly still making watercolor paintings at that time, and needle felting was just something I was doing for fun.
2020 was quite a turning point for various reasons, but I know that
Yeah.
looking at your feed, there was some. It was like I went through a relief, right? Because I saw there was a thing where you did like 2020, you did a sculpture that was made out of poo. That was the sort of
Yeah.
summation of 2020, and then you can see that obviously you'd done some kind of clay painty, like getting those ideas out of your head. I think you might have done some pizza or something like that.
Yeah.
But then there's a relief, I think, for me, because then suddenly you're doing it in needle felting, and I just feel like you must have just gone, "Oh my god, this is like stabby easiness."
Yeah, it was really bizarre. Like clouds to me sort of represent like um what would I say? Like they're always just being blown around, like they're not in control of themselves. So and that's how 2020 felt was I just wasn't in control, couldn't go outside, couldn't really go to the store or anything. So I started making these clouds that were just sort of representations of my loss of control. Um yeah, and I don't know, people loved it. Like I remember I made this cloud and I just randomly put it up on my Instagram because before that I wasn't really putting a whole lot of my needle felting stuff on my Instagram, and I was just like, I'm gonna post this, just a picture.
Hmm.
And it got so many more likes than my like normal stuff. And I was like, well, that's cool. But I didn't really like follow up on it or do another one for a while. So, but yeah, it was like the signs were there. Like I would post a needle felted thing and people would be like, "That's amazing. I love it." And I'd get so much likes. And then I would just be like, "No, I'm gonna do a painting." And then I post that 5 likes.
So, but you said that you had some needle felting stuff because you'd done like a workshop on it or something. You tinkered with it beforehand.
Yeah, so when I was in college getting my BFA, I uh I took a class. It was like an all media sculpture class, and one of the projects was a needle felted wearable object. So that's where I learned how to do it. Um, I made these, like, glasses with, like, eyeballs hanging down, and that
Of
was, like, my
course.
first that was my first, foray into needle felting, and then after that, I really didn't do much needle felting for a while, I would say, 'cause that was, like, 8 years ago or something like that.
Right. And then you picked it up, and then the universe went, "Oh yeah, oh yeah."
Yeah. I took a break from school when I had my daughter, and then I went back in 21, to finish my BFA, and, during like, in between paintings, because I was in, like, a really intense painting class and it was really burning me out, I was like, "I'm gonna do something that's just for me and just fun." So I started making just little, like, little needle felted, like, stars with mouths or a heart
Hmm.
with, I think, eyeballs or something, and I loved it, and I was like, "This is so relaxing, I love this, these are fun," and I was really excited about them because I was like, these are cool. Like, I don't think I posted them for a while, but I was like, I'm really enjoying this because it's not painting. And I wasn't burned out from it. And and when you're in those classes, they're always like, what does this mean? Or why did you do this? Or why did you use this paint? Or what is this little shadow over here? And like everything's like critical in the painting and in the painting class. So when I started doing the needle felting stuff, I was just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna do whatever. I'm gonna make whatever. Like, I don't care if it's sentimental or weird or embarrassing or whatever. It's my thing and I'm just gonna do it. And that's, I think, how they differ from my paintings, I would say.
Is it? I mean, do you think part of it is like the slowness of the process as well? Because it does take time to do these things, even when you've got like a, because you do machine as well, not machine, sorry, you do hand felting, don't you? You don't use a machine, so you are doing a lot of stabbing, even if it's with a lot of needles. But I mean, it
Yes.
takes time to make those things, doesn't it? So I guess you can be quite conscientious about how you build the things.
It does take a long time, like, not as long as it used to. I can They take about a week, like, for a biggish one. I can work on it for about 7 days, and then it's done.
Mm,
They do take a long time. I would say my paintings take longer, though, um, and maybe that's why needle felting for me is kind of like a break because it doesn't take as long as a painting to
mm.
make.
And do
Um,
you have you subsequently brought the needle felting into your BFA, or did you just stick to painting all the way through that?
Actually, that's a funny story. So, I was, like, in my last semester of college, I was, making rugs, like,
Tufted
tufted
rugs,
rug.
yeah, we'll talk about those, yeah.
So, and I was in this independent study where I was making these rugs with a professor, and I had these needle felted things, and I was like, I'm gonna have these part of my independent study or whatever. So I would make a rug, and then I'd make a couple needle felted things, and I would show my professor, and he always really loved the rugs, but wasn't so much into the needle felted things, which is fine because they're kind of kitschy and like silly. And I remember I asked him, like, on the last critique, I was like, "So what do you think about the needle felted things?" And he was like, he just shrugs and he's like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But he
That's
really,
funny.
really, really was a great professor. That was just one of those funny things where I was like, "What do you think?" And he's just like, "I don't know."
But he liked the rugs.
He likes the rugs, yes.
And yeah, in many ways, like the content of the rugs and the content of the needle felting, it's all that slightly, I don't know how you call it, like bizarre, weird, kitsch. Like it's your thing, isn't it?
Mhm.
So, but it's interesting that there's quite like a medium specific appreciation there or something.
Yeah, it was, well, he was my painting professor for a long time, so I feel like the rugs had more to do with painting because 'cause they're
Yeah,
2D and they're flat. So I feel like he was more biased towards the rugs, and I don't think he had anybody do rugs yet in any of
right.
his classes. So when I started doing the rugs, he was, like, really excited about it. Um, but I mean, I don't think he'd had anybody do needle felted sculptures either, but but he
We
really
could
liked
only
the
be
rugs.
excited about the one new thing. It was probably have to go and have a professional review if you got excited about the two different things.
Right.
Because I did a podcast with Liv Onrud, who does needle felted rugs. And I mean, she was similar, I think, started out doing painting and then very much used and still does use like the tufted gun as a kind of paintbrush, in that kind of way. So, I mean, I guess it is quite an easy overlap, although I feel like tufted rugs leads you more in a kind of graphic direction, isn't it? You don't get a lot of nuance in the color.
Yeah, that was kinda why I stopped doing it. It was really hard for me to visualize the colors together, because even if you're looking at, like, a skein of yarn, like, when it's cut, it looks different, like, the color is not quite the same as what you were looking at it a long ways, because you're looking at it cut through
Mm,
the tufting process. So that was really hard, like, trying to figure out colors or even just buy the right color for my project. Like, I would have my thing and I'd be, like, at the store buying the colors, and then when I got home, I would be working on it, I was like, "That was not the right color. It was the wrong choice." So that was really hard with, rug tufting. And I don't really do it anymore. It was very labor intensive. Those, like, guns, the machines are really heavy.
mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you often get a dead shoulder, but at the same time, you kill a triceps or something, isn't it? It's sort of like
Yeah.
you probably find you can lift your children. I use my children as casual kettlebells a lot of the time, so you probably know what I mean in that
Yeah.
respect. But I like the fact that even with the rugs, I think your version of weird was coming through there. But I guess, yeah, the needle felting and like you say, even with those charms, like you make a star, you make a moon, you put an eyeball on them, you put a
Mm,
mouth on them, you turn them into these little weird beings, and off you go, I suppose, really.
right. It was, yeah, anything like, oh, like I made this pear this one time and I was just like, I'm gonna put some eyes and a mouth on it and see where that goes. And that post did like crazy well. People loved it. And I was like, it's just a pear with eyes and a mouth. Like I liked it, but I just couldn't believe everybody else liked it too. I was like, what is wrong with you guys?
I guess you must have dived into the world of needle felting a bit since you've taken it on. Are there artists that you admire? Are there people that you look up to and you think, okay, I can see like where I'm going or where they're coming from?
Yeah, there's I'm really bad with names, but there's an
Okay.
artist on Instagram and he makes these like giant needle felting projects, like bigger than me, like huge, like masks and sculptures, and they're gigantic. And I'm pretty sure they're all wool. They're amazing and they're so weird, and I love them so much. I really wish I could remember his name.
Is it Paolo del Toro? Because I
Maybe.
had him pegged as somebody who I thought would be a sort of peer of yours because he's got that sort of surreal, slightly Robert Crumb kind of vibe about his work a lot of the time.
It could
But
be.
yeah, I think because they're like huge, aren't they? They're like this,
Yes.
I don't know what he does with them when he's finished, you know what I mean? Just like if he's got a lounge, he's just got massive masks on them. But I think, I mean, that I think's where it's exciting because I think there's a lot of like needle felting does get a little bit like crafty. People will make a fox or a robin. So then when someone comes along and even just, yeah, makes a piece of like a pear with some eyeballs in it or something, it's so weird. It's such an outlier that I think people get really excited by it.
I think that's what it is. It was like, cause like, don't get me wrong, like, needle felting a cat that looks like a cat is amazing, like,
Oh,
that
yeah.
stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
Or, like, making a mouse, that kind of stuff's amazing, but that's not my vibe. So, when I started working with it, I was just like, "What weird stuff can I make?" And even in watercolor, I was always pushing it, like, "How far can I take this? Like, how good can I get at this? Like, what's the furthest I can go?" And so when I started doing the needle felting, I was like, can I make that eye look shiny? Can I make this really dry medium look like it's wet? That kind of stuff. So I really wanted to push it to see what I could do with it.
I always really liked there's an artist called Moxie and she did my Felter Skelter column back in the day, so like 2010 stuff like that. And she once did an installation piece that was basically it was video cameras and pipes and kind of boxes with meters on them. So it almost looked like it was just a bit of German plumbing or something. She would do like, and I just really loved that like hard, boring object made out of needle felting because it was such a
Yes.
contrast with like the medium. I guess
Yes.
yours just
I
takes that
love
and drops some acid on it.
I like I adore like what I do is I sort of just make things into like give them their own little personalities, but I also love to see like somebody needle felt like a rock. You know what I mean?
Mm, mm.
Needle felt something that's not needle felting. You know what I mean? Like a trash can. Like that would be awesome.
That's bound to happen at some point. The trash can of apathy. I feel, I feel like we could just do a game with you where we just go the object of emotion, and we'll just like rattle off like 450 ideas or something. My favorite is the grilled cheese sandwich of acceptance. Almost feel like he's quite a profound piece because he's about acceptance as well, which seems like it's turning a corner.
Yeah, it was that one was I don't know. I'm trying to think of how I was feeling, like what I was doing when I was making that.
Do you know what it reminded me of when you wrote something? It was almost like it's a bit like there's a thing of this too shall pass. When
Yeah.
you're having an ordinary moment and the magic's there, but at the same time you're like, oh, it's going to change.
I know I remember what I was feeling when I made it. My then 5-year-old had just started kindergarten, and so it was like this transitional period where she wasn't with me all the time, and before that, she was with me all the time. I work from home, so she was just always with me, and so when she started school, like, that whole first week of her school, I just cried. It was like a mess, like, snot cry everywhere, like, "I hope she's okay," and then she hated school, so
Right.
it made it even harder because I'd drop her off, and she'd just be screaming and crying and, like, grabbing me, and they're, like, pulling her off me to get her into class. It was awful, and so so I made this sandwich that was sort of about that, just, like, remembering, like, "Oh, man, things have to change, and they're gonna be different." And now she's fine, she's great, she loves school, but that was a really hard time, and I made a bunch of pieces during that period of time that were all about the same thing. I think I made the ghost was about that too, it was rough.
It's so nice. I can remember the first time I ever dropped Flora, my oldest, off to nursery. So, like, what's she going to have been, like 2.5, something or other like that? And just like dropping her off and then sitting in the car and having a little cry. Just be like, oh, she's not my baby anymore. I mean, she still is. Do you know what I mean? But, whereas now, get out the door. Just the
Get
away
out
from
here.
me. Can't do it anymore. But I think that's interesting, isn't it? Because then it's almost like you are also documenting these moments. So even though these pieces are like abstract and surreal and absurd, they're also like moments of Audrey.
Yeah, it's just like, if I don't know, I'm feeling sad about something, like, remembering something that happened a million years ago and, like, feeling really embarrassed that I said something stupid, I'll just, like, make a pie about it or something.
Do you do? I mean, is food often the thing that you make?
I love it. I remember when I was a kid, there was a commercial for these toys, and they were called Food Fighters,
Right.
and I loved them. I thought they were so cool. It was like a yeah, chicken leg, and he had, like, a helmet on and a gun and like, a chocolate chip cookie that was angry, and it was, like, gonna murder the chicken leg, they were like it was like a warring factions of these, like, fast food items.
Uh-huh.
I just loved them. I thought they were so cool. I never had them. Like, I love that stuff. Or when McDonald's started doing the chicken nugget buddies, I thought those were so cool. I was like, "That is awesome." Like, I don't like, a fascination with me for, like, food that's alive, like anthropomorphic food. So, like, I loved it.
How do you feel about the California raisins?
Yes. I love I loved that Christmas special. I remember when I was a kid, like, vividly burned in my mind because I thought it was so awesome.
It definitely feels like you're the kid who is in front of the telly just being like amazed at all of this kind of stuff, and that's like the joy that permeates throughout. So it's interesting that there's also like this like nostalgia, or there's often a sort of poignancy with a lot of it, because the rest of it is just so like kind of wowie zowie.
Yeah. It's it's hard for me to, like, disconnect. So even if I was like, "I'm just gonna make like, a bat or something," like, I couldn't just make that. I would need to it needs to be something to me. It needs to, like, symbolize something about either myself or something I'm going through. That's really I don't know why that's so important to me, well, mostly because 'cause I'm sitting for hours and hours, like, thinking about stuff and stabbing stuff.
Yeah, you just can't escape it, can you? It's
I
just like
can't I can't
just
get out of my head, so that's why they're all about, like, stuff I'm going through.
But that's the artistry. That's the you coming out, isn't it? It's quite clear. Like I say, it's such a relief to see that then you found needle felting and suddenly you were able to put all of the stuff you've been doing and transform it into these like hyper kitsch 3D objects now.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Like, I love needle felting, and I love that everybody else loves it too. That's, like it's crazy to me that people respond to it the way they do. When I was in school, I had this professor, and they said that, they used to do paintings, and then they switched to textile work because the paintings weren't saying what they wanted the paintings to say. And I
Mm.
feel like that's kind of what happened to me too. Like, my paintings weren't ever saying the right things, or people weren't understanding the things that I wanted them to understand from the paintings. But when I moved to needle felting, it's like everybody just got it. And that was like a game changer for me. I was just like, "Oh, okay." All this stuff that I thought that I couldn't do, like make it kitschy, make it like sentimental, make it weird, make it embarrassing. I didn't do that with my paintings, and now I do it with my needle feltings, and people get it, and that's amazing to me. I love it.
I think there's always something about the softness, because they look like cuddly toys. And, it's the same with cross stitch and needlework. There's just like this cultural familiarity to it. And I think needle felting it's not as embedded in like history, because it's always a bit of an odd one, isn't it? A lot of the time felt was more like functional, like you might make coats out of it or blankets out of it, and it was very much like almost like a byproduct of shepherding or something or other. But the minute you get into the like these soft things, you still get it with people who kind of make weird plush toys. They have that kind of sort of familiarity as well, don't they? Because it is probably instant nostalgia in some ways, but I think as well your style and your aesthetic just ramps that sort of nostalgia vibe up a bit.
Yeah, there's something about the surface, and that it's like an object. So there, it is very much like a toy or a pillow or a plushie. Um, that it just doesn't work. Like I was like, you know what? I want to see if I could paint one of these sculptures and see how that goes. And I did it, and I was like, no, this doesn't work because it needs to have that softness. It needs to have that like the way you would imagine it would feel. Because you
No.
can't imagine you're feeling a paint. I mean, you can, but nobody wants to touch a painting because it's not going to feel like anything. It's just going to feel like a flat surface. But you can imagine that you're touching one of these if you're just looking at a picture or the video or something, and you know what that feels like. And you just sort of want to squeeze it, hug it, look at it, touch it, turn it around, turn it upside down, look at it from every angle. And you just can't do that with a painting. And that's sort of the fun part of it is that it is an object. And for some people that devalues it, like it's not a painting, it's not this big giant, like, I don't know, prestigious thing. It's just like this needle felted weird sculpture. But that's sort of the thing I love about it is that it is just like an object.
Yeah, and so how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that like, you had this like painting background and that was what art was and all of that sort of thing. And now you're making this work and everybody's responding to it and you're selling pieces. And you had a solo show, or is the solo show that's happening soon, isn't it?
It's still happening, and then I'm going to be in a group show next. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you're an exhibited artist, like who's beloved across the globe, doing these weird needle feltings. How does that butt up against your preconditions about what an artist should be?
Um, like it's really it's been really strange to sort of move into something that's so different from painting. Like I feel like I move in the circles of like lowbrow art, whereas initially I was like trying to be like this highbrow artist. And now I'm just like in like the common circles of people who just like love to collect stuff and they love like weird art. And is really weird because I didn't think I would ever be in those circles. Like I always loved lowbrow art. I always thought it was awesome. But I was always like, I don't know if I'm creative enough to do that. And so now that I'm in it, it's like it's exciting, but it's also like, oh, I'll bet some people are disappointed, if that makes sense.
I mean, but when you say some people, do you mean people you know? Or
It sort of goes against like my education, like my BFA. Like we were always like, you need to be in the conversation and of art, and you need to know what you're saying, and you need to your paintings need to mean something or do something, and they can't just all be about you is sort of like what my education was or what I took from being like a painter was that if you made it too sentimental or too much about yourself, it sort of lost its prestige. And so when I was doing my paintings, I was always trying to keep them at like a distance so that they weren't like totally my heart. And then now I feel like these sculptures I make are just me. They're just like my heart, and I just made a heart. So, um, is it's like they're too close to me to be like super fine art, but somehow that's what makes people love them so much.
Yeah, I think you get this thing, don't you, where you could do a painting of He-Man trying to hit on a My Little Pony, and you would have to just justify it as being a commentary on male-oriented globalization and the whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to do
Yeah,
that, don't you? Everything has to be, I'm talking about
like
the challenge within a cultural context.
it has to be this big thing. Like it has to be this big statement about something other than me, or just something big. Like it needs to be big cultural thing. And
Whereas the
I was
beauty of your
trying
work
so
is you're doing what Audrey had to do. You're making the work that you had to make because when you look back at everything you've done, even going back to like, your portraits from 2010 and those kind of things, even there you were like experimenting with color and just trying to, you're doing your best to do the normal portraits, but you can't help but be a little bit odd and a little bit kitsch because that was the Audrey story. And now this is the logical conclusion of that, right?
it is. Like I needed it to be weird always, even when I was trying to be normal. It just needed to go in a direction that I felt was different or unexpected.
And I think that's what I like about. I mean, I'm trying to work out how, like, because sometimes, and the thing is, I've got no art history training, right? So I don't know all this stuff. I'm just making it up as I go along. But you get kind of folk art, and you get like naive art, I think, and then sometimes is there like brute art as well, and that kind of stuff to me is people making the stuff that they had to make because they had to make it, and it feels like that's let's remove the lofty concepts of it all. But that's what artists should be, right? People making the stuff they have to make because that's what they're here for.
Exactly. Like I have to make it. Like I have to make these weird things. And they seem so silly, but I have to do it. I can't get around it. Like if I don't needle felt for like a few days, if I'm not making some weird thing, I'm just like, who even am I? Like what am I doing here? It is the work that I needed to make for sure.
Yeah. It's like fiber-based Tourette's or something. You're just like muffin with a smile,
Yes.
conflicted cupcakes. Do you feel like you're building a world? Are these all like individual outpourings, or do you think somewhere down the line there's like like the beginning of the Muppet Show, and you've just got the Muppets, and then it sort of pans out, and then you've got all the rows of the Muppets, and you're like, oh my god, there's so many Muppets all of a sudden. Are you building that? Are you building like the Muppet Show?
I'm not really thinking necessarily about how they all look together or how they all go together, but I kind of am. I'm just making all these characters, and I do like a lot of my followers on Instagram are like character designers, like they make puppets or they draw characters and stuff.
Hmm.
And like I don't necessarily think I'm doing that. Like I am definitely doing that, but I'm not thinking of that when I'm making these guys. And so it's like I'm just making all these weird characters, but to me when I'm making a piece, I'm just making this like a piece of art. Like I'm thinking of it as a piece of art. But they are definitely characters and they like could talk to each other. Like it would be fun if there was like an animated like something of them together. That would be really cool, like a cartoon or I don't know, puppet show.
I think they
That'd be
could
so
do a
cool.
podcast or possibly do a local news channel, and it's just like, and now here's depressed pizza with the traffic.
That would be so awesome. I love that.
I could
I
definitely work.
actually in my in my independent study class I was talking about, I originally started that class, I was gonna make puppets. And then I made one puppet, and puppets are really hard to make. And I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna make puppets. But I was like, wanted to make puppets so bad. And then my professor was like, so are you gonna like do a puppet show? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, why are you making puppets? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. There's a girl on Instagram called Axe Personified. And I think I don't know whether she makes recreations of Muppets or something, or she
Oh
just
yeah,
makes
yeah.
Muppets. But like her stuff's like the real deal. I think people
Yeah.
really like. I'm just going to look her up now because I think yeah, Emily Engel, and she just seems to make, yeah, just those kind of puppets. I think the thing with the Muppets as well, for me, it always seemed that they largely had like the same kind of eyes, And I think a lot of your characters, I don't know whether you just have like the one eyeball supplier or something. I mean, where do you get your eyes from?
A lot of them are just my eyes. Like, I have pictures of myself doing this, like, my eyes real big, and I'm just, like, looking at my eyes and, like, putting them on there, and then I just have my cartoon eye that I do. I don't know exactly where it came from, but
So wait, so
it doesn't really fit, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
those eyes like on the pizza and stuff, they're not like glass eyes then?
No, they're, I needle felt those.
I thought they were glass eyes. Damn, you really
No.
have got shiny down, haven't you? I bet you're like, "Ah." So I did that.
Yes.
But I think that's the thing, you know, like I say, I think that like when you look at the Muppets, there are certain tells that you go, they're in the Muppet universe because there are those kind of things. And I think with yours, the eyes are part of the eyes and the mouths and the way they kind of work seems to be that's the character trait among all the abstract food objects.
Yeah, they all definitely go together. Like, I have my eye and mouth aesthetic, and it's always my mouth because I have an underbite. So if you look at them, you'll see that they all have underbites.
Oh
So,
wow. Yeah,
um,
this is you, aren't they? These are all, like you say, they are actually all Audreys, even though one of them might be a pretzel.
yes. So I tried to do other people's mouths, and it was just a little weird. And I was like, oh, I'll just do my mouth. Like, I'm sort of moving away from them looking just like my mouth, and more like just like a general, like generic mouth as I'm getting better at doing mouths. But yeah, it's all kind of just my mouth and my teeth.
And only if it makes you happy should you move away from it, because I think
Yeah.
otherwise it is that sum total. What was it like then with the solo show, like having so many pieces all together? I mean, I guess you've got them all in and around you anyway, but I mean, to see so many pieces all out in the one space and stuff like that must have been quite the buzz.
Yeah, it was really well, to be honest with you, I usually sell them as soon as I make them. So I don't usually have them around for very long, and I don't have them together to see them all together. So it was really like that's the reason why I wanted to do the show was because I wanted to see all the pieces together. Like I wanted to keep them long enough to put them all on a wall and see what they look like together because I'd never done that. And people just buy them, which is amazing, and I'm so grateful for that. But it was really cool to see them all together in one show. I was like, oh, this is how they work together. But it was really difficult to hang it because I was hanging it, and I was like, I don't even know how to hang this. They're not squares. Like,
Mm.
how do you put them together? That was tough. It took me like hours to do.
How did you get?
I actually had help. One of the guys at the gallery was helping me do it. But as far as like technical stuff, I always put like hangers on the back of the pieces so that they can just hang directly on a wall. I find that's best. I occasionally I'll make a standalone sculpture that can stand on like a plinth or something. I don't like those as much because my cats get them and like tear them to pieces. So I'm like, if anybody has cats, I don't want their cats to get them. So I make almost all my pieces to hang on a wall like a painting.
Right. And in your mind, do the pieces talk to one another?
In the
Are they
show,
friends? Are they foes?
they're all. I think they're friends. They're all sort of friends, like
Are they all
friend.
part of the same therapy group? Is that
Yeah.
where it's at? It's sort of they meet
Yeah,
once a
they all
week,
sit in a circle and
get it off their
and talk
chest.
about me.
Audrey. My name's Moldy Apple, and I'm an Audrey creation. Hi, Audrey creation.
Pretty much.
That sounds amazing. What was I going to ask you? I had a random question. This is a random question. Do children in Albuquerque learn to spell quicker than the average because they have to learn to spell Albuquerque?
It's quite a word, right? There's so many cues.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's the most QE word of Albuquerque or whatever. I feel like if you get that right, you can get anything right, really.
Right, yeah. What's fun about Albuquerque is that it's spelled almost exactly the way it sounds, which
Mm.
is a Spanish thing. Um, English words can be, I think, tricky because those vowels can do whatever they want. There's no
Well,
rules with those vowels.
no, no. If in doubt, just stick an extra U into a thing. It'll be fine. We can cope with that. And it's quite. I mean, it's quite a left field kind of place, Albuquerque, isn't it?
It's very uh Wild Westy sort of
Right.
like it's very desert, dry, lots of cactuses.
Hella
rattlesnakes, stuff
hot.
like that.
Is it
Yes.
hot?
Well, it's cold. It's very cold in the winter and very hot in the summer because we're at a very high elevation. So it's a high desert. So we get cold in the winter and really hot in the summer. I mean, not like Arizona hot, but it gets hot.
Is there a sweet spot of a couple of weeks where everyone's like, oh, it's lovely, just
Yes,
t-shirts and shorts?
there's about 4 weeks the whole year. 2 weeks in spring and 2 weeks in fall where it's really nice. And then the rest of the year I'm just inside the whole time.
It's just a fresh hell the rest of the time. I love it here. Can't go out.
It's so
Dead.
great. People who like to be outside really love it, but I'm not really an outside person.
Do you feel outdoors ever?
In those 2 weeks in the spring and 2 weeks in the fall, I'll sit outside and in my yard and felt.
What's that you're making? Says the neighbour walking past. You're like, well, it's a fondant fancy who's seen better days. And the person goes, okay, dear, and just keeps on walking and doesn't walk past your house again. That'd be fine. Right, I sent you some questions. Hopefully, I sent you some questions in advance. These will be a fascinating insight into Audrey's brain, although I feel like we're going there already. But do you have a favourite band?
No, I don't know. I have a favorite album.
Okay, that'll do.
Okay. My favorite album of all time has to be Paul Simon's Graceland.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't know. Like my parents had it when I was a kid, and it's sonically, it's just a gorgeous album. I love it. it the songs are so great.
Yeah, I agree. I bought it on vinyl not that long ago. I managed to find one on vinyl for like £2 or something ridiculous. And I was like, I'm
Nice.
having that because it's really joyful, isn't it? It really starts out
Yeah.
really joyfully as well. And I think it's just a nice.
The whole sound is joyful, but like what the songs are about is like super heavy.
Mm, yeah, true. But also like really like the lyrics are really stickable, aren't they? Like you can just like he makes the sign of the teacup, she makes the sign of the wave, and off we go again. And all of that. I'm gonna be having that for the rest of the day now, and so are
Yeah.
you. That'll be marvelous. Do you listen to music when you work?
Yes, I do.
I'd imagine it's.
Um,
I feel like with you just put like right. Give me MTV 1990s on Spotify, and that's Audrey gone for the rest of the day or something. I don't know.
like weirdly enough, I really like 50s jazz. So I listen to a lot of like Walter Wanderley and like I always get his name wrong, but I want to say Herb Alpert.
Oh yeah, what Herb Alpert and Tijuana Brass? That guy.
Yeah. I listen to a lot
Interesting.
of that. Like so I'll just put on like a Spotify playlist and it'll just play all kinds of music like that.
The
It's
thing that
fun.
fascinates me is you get these people. So Herb Alpert's a great example, isn't it? Because he is fantastically wealthy because he was so successful with Tijuana Brass, wasn't he? But it feels quite cheesy. Like people just go, like if over here, if you went to charity shops, you'd see his albums in there alongside people like James Last and all of these guys who were huge back in the day. But every now and again inside there are some real gems. I got Herb Alpert's album, I think it's called Rise, which was like the first one he made that's not particularly Tijuana-y.
Mhm.
And on it, it's got two songs. So there's one called Rotation, which has got a real kind of groovy, like synth vibe, makes you feel a bit of Miami Vice kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And then I think Rise, is it Rise or Rise Up? The song itself has got a bass line on it that was then subsequently used in about 100 different hip hop albums. And it's just like you get these people that are so technically good. There's have you ever heard of Soma FM? It's like a
No.
sort of online radio station thing. It's been going for
Okay.
years, and they have all these different genres of music. And they've got one particular station on there that's called the In Sound, I think it is, and it plays that kind of like 60s, 70s, like David Axelrod, slightly cinematic, funky lounge kind of music stuff. That's in a similar vibe where suddenly it's like
Mhm.
something that sounds like it's in like a French detective movie.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. It's in there,
Yes.
and it's that kind of music where like in and amongst all the stuff that's just really cringe, suddenly you find a song that just blows you away. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, there's this so I listen to Spotify DJ, it's like an AI DJ, and it's been playing a lot of like 70s jazz, which is
Hmm.
really cool. Like I don't know any of the names. Like I'm just bad at names in general for
Right.
everything. So, but like I love the sound of it. It's like it does sound like you're in like a like a murder mystery, like a French murder mystery. Yeah, a lot of them. It's cool.
There's another good series of albums that are called Beat et Cincinetta, and they're like compilations of Italian jazz. But what happened, and again, my facts are off here, but what happened, roughly speaking, was there was a really cool Italian jazz scene. And then I think maybe they were involved in the movies or something like that. But then all of that work kind of dried up, and they ended up making music for like adult films in Italian, like porno films and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really groovy jazz. Like, it's so amazing to kind of listen
That's
to and stuff. And
cool.
it just happens to be the music that people would be like going at it to in some really retro film or something. But they're a really good series because it is, again, it's just that kind of cinematic jazz vibe. You're just like, yeah, I can get down to that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Nice. Favorite book?
My favorite book is, what is it called? Gil's All Fright Diner by Ailey Martinez. It's just like a funny book about a werewolf and a vampire hillbillies just driving around in their old broken truck, solving mysteries.
Is that like a Scooby-Doo, the inverse
Sort
or
of.
something? Right?
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, do you read a lot?
I used to, not anymore, but yeah. And if I
Mostly
read, it's
children's
gonna be
books.
something silly. Huh?
Yeah, mostly children's books.
Yeah,
I've
now.
I very much enjoyed introducing my kids to things like Dr. Seuss. I'm kind of making them read all the books that I really enjoyed as a kid, and to hell with all. I mean, we read a lot of, like, I don't know, the books that you're supposed to read at their age or whatever, but I love like going over Green Eggs and Ham and all of those kind of things. And in a way, I suppose actually his aesthetic isn't a billion miles away from yours. It was kind
No,
of
I
like
love
lumpy
it.
buildings and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
What was the last? I keep rephrasing this question. What was the last like good film you saw, or do you have a favorite film?
My right now my favorite movie is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Ah.
It was so good. Like I never ugly cried and laughed at the same time with like snot everywhere as I did at the end of that movie. It was just so good. I love that movie so much.
Yeah. I'm sorry to say I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. It's in my house on my list of films to watch. But things like Schitt's Creek keep getting in the way. It's not the same at all, or whatever. I mean, do you watch a lot of films? Are there ones? Is it more like
I do.
cartoons?
Um, you know, I watch a lot of I call them my comfort movies. So I watch like Elvira, the Mistress of the Dark, the movie. It's one of my favorite movies, or The Burps with Tom Hanks. Like I just love those kind of like cheesy, like you don't really have to like sit and pay attention to it too much, but they're still like really fun to watch.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I've got a fondness for Police Academy, the first one of those, which I enjoyed when I was a kid, and then still makes me chortle. I think I watched it not that long ago. There's a scene with a podium, and I think I'll just leave that there. Really, it's very funny indeed. I mean, what about TV as well? Are you much of a TV person?
Yes, I
Go
love
on.
TV. Bob's Burgers is one of my favorite shows. I love it. And old Simpsons from like the 90s to mid 2000s. I love those.
Right. And then one day the Audrey Montoya show, and people would be like,
Exactly. One
yeah,
day.
yeah.
I'm holding out for somebody to make it because I'm not going to do it.
Oh no, give it time, give it time. Like Netflix will come along at some point, and then if you need an English voiceover actor, you know where to
Yeah, yeah.
find me. I can do
I
many
already know.
voices. I'm a pizza now. And now I'm a pot of yogurt. Is there an interesting fact that not many people know about Audrey Montoya?
Um. Oh, I have a twin brother, but we were not born on the same day. I'm older. I was born like right before midnight, and then my brother was born right after midnight.
I mean, that's nice though,
I
right?
know. So we have different birthdays.
Yeah. Do you get treated more like separate people because of that as well, rather than just, oh, we'll just get, it's the twins' birthday, whatever?
No.
No, you're still the twins. Are you
No.
quite twinny?
We were when we were younger, not so much anymore. But I love my brother. He's a great guy.
And not because you're not the same sex, so I'm assuming you were like different egg twins. Don't know what the exact
Mhm.
scientific term. I'm just wondering whether
Fraternal.
you have anything like a psychic bond. Like my stepdad, I used to have a
Oh,
stepdad who was one of identical twins, and they were weird. They were like proper
No,
psychic.
I don't think we didn't have like a special language or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, you can't finish each other's sandwiches or any of that sort of stuff.
No.
That's cool. Hey, Audrey, thanks for having a needle exchange with me.
Well, thanks for having me, Jamie. It was a lot of fun.